Good evening. I am attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my two guest hosts. Our first guest host is Miss G, Miss Georgette Truan. Miss G, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. And our second guest host is Mr. Darren Guy. Mr. Guy, how are you?
Mr. Davis, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Okay. We're kind of low on the volume there, Mr. Darren. I don't know what's going on. And we have a special guest tonight, Miss Andreas Stevens. Miss Stevens, how are you this evening?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good. Where are you coming to us from?
New York.
Ah, New York. What part of New York?
Upstate. Near Buffalo and Rochester.
Okay. I'm from California. You wouldn't say upstate New York. That doesn't mean anything to me. We have a kind of a friend in New York, an attorney by the name of Michael. What's Michael's last name, Miss G?
I can't pronounce his last name.
We should probably learn how to do that before August 5. Hey, Andrea, on August 5, we're having a Zoom seminar, and I have about 5 of 7 attorney slots filled of attorneys who's going to be doing presentations. And Michael, who's a real pistol from New York, kind of a kick butt kind of guy, is going to be, I think he might be the first speaker at on Saturday, August 5th. But so what's going on with CPS in New York with you and your family?
This has been going on for about 4 years now. They had removed my children when my youngest was 7 weeks old. And I have not seen her since. They won't let me have anything to do with the kids until they had actually gotten a phone call that my son was being locked into a basement by my sister. They removed my son out of the home, and I don't know where he is.
Wait a minute. You haven't seen your child in 4 years?
Any of my children.
That might be illegal. I mean, what were they accusing you of?
Well, I have a history. I had one other proceeding in 2016, which I had an ACD, and I had completed that.
What's ACD?
Completion of what is it? A credibility, I can never say what it is, but it's where you have to do a stipulation and you have to follow through with it for a whole year. And then after that year, when you're done, you don't have it on your record or nothing.
Okay.
And I had completed it.
And so you got your children back and everything was fine and closed out?
Yep. And then March 13th, 2019, they had removed my kids.
Because your sister made a report that you were keeping kids in the basement or something?
Well, see, what happened was, to begin with, is my kids were at a babysitter's house. And I was very, very sick after I had my infant. And when I had my infant, I was like, okay, well, I can't do this no more. Someone's going to get hurt or something's going to happen. So I made that choice of, I need a babysitter. I'm going to get better. And so that's what I had done. And when I had done so, they actually took my kids away that evening. The evening I was going to go pick them up, which was a Tuesday. And they had school and stuff on Wednesday. I had actually originally asked the worker for help because I couldn't get my 2 kids onto the bus on time. And so they got me for educational neglect. And they had also got me for medical neglect, which is not true at all. They had no evidence to prove any of it whatsoever.
Did you have a lawyer that represented you?
Yes, and she got kicked off of my case. The judge had actually screamed at her, and the judge that I had, there was a conflict of interest because he was in my prior case. And they reused the same document files and their numbers and everything. They reopened the case.
Was the attorney that got kicked off, was that a private attorney or was it a court-appointed attorney?
Court appointed.
That's unusual. Did you get another court-appointed attorney?
Yep, and then there was a conflict of interest twice.
What was that conflict of interest without naming names?
There was the conflict of interest between us was because the attorney was my old attorney from the prior. And then when they gave me another one, it was my ex's, my son's father's attorney for the court proceeding.
Well, you know what? In California, that would definitely be considered a conflict of interest. I'm not versed on New York law, but that's something I might ask Michael about. That seems very weird.
Yes. Like, there's been a lot of illegal acts that have happened. My kids have been in a lot of dangerous situations. And I have begged them to remove my kids out of these situations. And they refuse to do so.
Well, who were your, first of all, do you still have your parental rights? Or were your rights taken? And you haven't, but you say you haven't seen your kids for 4 years. That would be.
Yeah, my sister has custody.
Your sister what?
She has custody.
Ah, it's a family member who's doing this to you. I'm hearing more and more about that lately.
Is your sister the one that reported you?
No, my mom is.
Anonymous?
My mom.
Oh, your mom.
Yeah, my mom, she reported me because I wouldn't allow my oldest to go on vacation with her to go down south because she was sick. And she had already missed school, and I wanted her to go back to school, And I didn't feel that it was fair. Out of 4 kids, you want to just take one on vacation? So I said no. And she didn't like that answer.
And she reported you to CPS?
Yep.
Does she get to see the children with your sister?
Yep. None of them talk to me. My grandmother doesn't speak to me. None of my family talks to me anymore. Like, I haven't seen my girls. I talked to my son a couple times on the phone just recently, but that was it so far.
Now, Andrea, I've been doing this kind of law for a long time, and it's the very extreme cases that I hear like yours. You haven't seen the kids in 3 or 4 years. That's extreme. I mean, for cases that I know about, that I've been involved in, for that type of thing to happen, you would basically have to be some kind of mass murderer or, mass child abuser. Now, we don't know each other. I've never met you, never talked to you before. You don't seem like that type of person. But, I don't get it. What are the allegations against you? Even if you kept your kids locked up in the cellar, you're supposed to get reunification services and get
Right.
your kids back.
Well, see, the reason of why they removed the kids, they said, is because of my history, was the first thing. The second was because of medical neglect and educational neglect, which I don't know how, when I was trying to do the right things. And they wouldn't allow me to even produce my paperwork or give anything to prove otherwise. They would not allow it whatsoever. And my sister and CPS had become buddies, and they had all went against me and used information against me that I had no part of.
Did your attorney did you ever have a trial?
Yep. and we weren't able to do anything about it.
What do you
Because I ended up
mean?
not having an attorney for the second part of the trial.
What happened?
They proceeded, and then I got another judge. I got the judge that we had removed, and I got a new one put on the case because there was a lot of bias.
And that was 3 years ago?
That happened 2 years ago. I had a new judge put on.
Darren, you look like you have a question. Did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, well, so 2 years, you got a new judge on. Where's they didn't give you another attorney after that attorney was kicked off?
I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
They didn't give you another attorney after that attorney was kicked off?
Nope, not for a while.
So do you have an attorney now?
I just recently had received a new attorney, and I can't come in contact with her.
Wow.
I've been trying to contact attorneys for the last 4 years since it happened, and nobody will help me. Like, my kids have been in danger. They placed my son with a pedophile, and I begged them not to. They did it anyhow. I begged them not to put him with my sister. They did it anyhow. When they placed him with my sister, I never saw my kids again. And she...
Wait a minute. Was that a court order, or your sister just wouldn't let you see the kids?
The court had actually given her full rights of all say to do with my children.
But they didn't terminate your rights.
Nope.
Is there a father involved?
Yes, all of them are. My youngest, I'm with her father. I've been with him for 5 years.
And does he get to see the children?
Nope. They said that unsupervised visits, because his dad had a car accident and we were at the hospital, and so we didn't receive our unsupervised visits because we were at a hospital. And he goes, well, I guess you're going to have to figure something out then, because you should have been there.
Who said that?
The judge.
I'm kind of lost for words because I don't think I've ever heard of a case this egregious.
Well, when we were in court for that trial that the attorney of mine got kicked out of, when we were asking questions to CPS, they had actually stated back to us that they didn't recall any of it. They never recalled anything happening. And they still ended up going on the whole case.
Wow.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a battle. A big battle. A lot of hurt, a lot of unfairness.
All of this came up because you were asking for help.
Yep. To be a
Wow.
better mom, to
Right.
try to figure out my kids, to get them to school, to do better for my children and for my family. I had 2 at home and 2 in school, and it's just nothing wanted to work out.
Who did you ask help from? Who did you call for help, Andrea?
I'm sorry?
Who did you call for help?
I asked the CPS worker when she came to visit us at the home. When she had come to visit at the home, she had actually gave my daughter a different impersonation of her. She said that she was an old friend of mine, and I didn't even know who she was.
I'm not shocked. I'm sorry. I'm not shocked. So you were talking to her. This is so confusing.
It's all confusing. Trust me. I understand.
Hey, Andrea, I muted you for a
Doesn't make
second. We're
sense.
having a sound problem on your end, but I just wanted to say something to Miss G. Miss G, why did you say that you're not shocked about this? It's the worst case I've ever heard of.
Um,
To be honest with you, I'm finding this incredibly hard to believe. You
do you
haven't seen your
remember when I used to talk on your shows a lot? And I would express myself about CPS and the tactics that they use, based on a friend of mine now. She's actually a close friend of mine. She used to work for the department for 16 months, and she's no longer there. She resigned. LA County, Vermont office. Um, she showed me a lot of text messages, a lot of text messages. She took snapshots of supervisors, um, um, telling her what to do, how to act. Basically, she was told that if you don't do what I say, you're going to be fired and you will never work again in the county. And they will come after her family. And they were taught to use the same tactics as what the guest was saying earlier, to pretend you're something you're not when you go to the house. Pretend you're from, you know, Social Security Office, or, DPSS, food stamps or what have you, or, cash aid to help the family. Um, that way you can get more information from the parent and then you can use that against them. That's how she was taught. So all the stuff that I used to say on my shows and your shows, you doubted me because you thought I was talking out of my butt, but I wasn't. It was all information that was coming to me from a previous social worker. She couldn't sleep at night, and she said she was watching my shows, and she said that I was a firecracker, and she loved me so much that she wanted to get a hold of me. And before I trusted her, I had to see her intake, when they hired her, all that, to make sure she's legit about what she's saying. And
Is
she
she
already,
willing? Is she willing to come on the show?
no, we talked about this before last year, and I told you she's not willing because they threatened her children.
But see, here's the thing. This is an incredible story. If the person isn't willing to come forward, how is anybody supposed to believe this?
Fine, you don't have to believe it, but there's other people like Andrea that's coming out and saying exactly what I'm saying. So nobody has to believe it, but the truth is the truth.
First of all, Andrea is not a social worker.
I know that, but she's describing everything the social worker told me.
You
Everything I
your
discussed.
social worker friend told you that she was made to not let people see their kids for 4 years.
No, we're talking about when she said that she went to her home and she was pretending to be, she was not aware she was a social worker. Am I right, Andrea? Okay, that's what I'm
Okay,
talking about.
Andrea, I because of technical difficulties, I disappeared from the screen for a minute, and then I'm back on. But say that again because I didn't hear that part.
Yes, what happened was when she had arrived at my house, my daughter had answered the door. My daughter was about 7 years old when she answered the door, and I was in the bathroom, and she runs into me and she's like, "Mommy, some lady's at the door. She wants you. She said she's an old friend of yours." And I was like, "What? Like who? What do you mean? I know there's nobody around here that's gonna be just stopping by. You know what I mean?" And so I walked out and I'm like, "Oh, whatever." So I just kind of looked and I'm like, "Oh, great," because I knew exactly right off the bat just by looking at her through the door who it was. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
That was him.
Okay. Yep, now I can.
How did you know who it was when you looked through the door?
Just by the way that their attitude was, the way that they presented themselves by standing there, I guess, you can just tell, especially here.
Okay, I don't have that woman's intuition kind
Like
of
it's
thing.
just very snotty and snooty and like,
You
It's
could
like
tell
seeing it-
looking through your
seeing it different.
screen that she was a social worker. What do you think about that, Mr. Guai?
Well, I do understand what they say about the look. Like I know what an old friend of mine looks like, and if they have a clipboard and a badge on their shirt, then I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, it's not an old friend. And I know, but I do get what she's saying because they definitely do. They're standoffish, like they don't present that calm and cool. Their shoulders are back. They definitely have an appearance to them. There's no doubt. I agree.
Did this lady, was she wearing a badge?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it was tucked underneath her coat, but I could see it and I could
Oh,
just
okay.
tell.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
Yep.
Although I shouldn't be surprised. When I was a younger guy growing up, we could tell. I mean, you could basically tell undercover cops. So I
Right.
guess by looking at them.
Yep.
And then there was always that unmarked Chrysler
Yeah, the one
without the white walls.
the white walls. That's funny. That's a good one.
Let me ask you something, Andrea. Have you ever filed any kind of complaints?
Lots.
Who have you filed complaints with?
Just about everybody and anybody I can find.
Well, by the way, your picture and your sound is perfect right now. I don't know what you did, but have you ever filed a complaint with the United States Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C.? And what happened?
They can't help me.
What did they write you a letter?
Yep.
And what did it say?
They had stated that they are unable to assist me with my case and there's nothing they can do. And that I have to get a hold of the regional office, which I've contacted the regional office. I don't even know how many times.
Would you be willing to speak to someone, maybe Miss G, and get all the facts down on paper and, look at the minute orders and the reports and everything with Miss G. And then, I'll go over it as well. But would you like to write a book
Sure.
to get your story out there?
I'd love to. Because I want other families to not go through this. It's
Right.
heart-wrenching and it's hard for these kids. And it's not okay.
Right. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, half my brain is saying, this can't be accurate. But the other half is saying, what if it is accurate?
It certainly is. I have every bit of evidence to prove that it definitely is.
Okay. Miss G has a number. Let me see if I can make this come up. Hold on a second. Banner. Miss G has a telephone number there. You see it? Andrea?
Yep.
You see that 626-631-8901?
Yep.
Okay. So I want you to text Miss G at that number after the show.
Okay.
And I want you to give your name and your email.
Okay.
And I want you to, Miss G works for my office, and I want you to send information to her so we can put this together and see
Okay.
what's going on. Half of me is saying, I can't wait to see this. I mean, if this is true, it probably is one of the most outrageous cases I've ever heard.
Oh yes, there's a lot. Like I've got no.
Oh, no, don't show us. Don't show us. Don't show us. No.
No. Oh no, it states a child endangerment.
Don't.
Okay, we
It just is stating
everybody
child
wants to show me
endangerment,
papers on the
misconduct.
document. You're going to email it to Miss G, who works for me, under the auspices of me reviewing as a lawyer and giving you some type of consulting or legal advice or whatever. Okay? But I really would like to see this. I'm very intrigued right now about what you're saying.
Andrea, what county is the case in?
I'm sorry?
What county is your case in?
Steuben.
Where's that?
Do you
Upper
know?
New York. Come on, you
Yep.
don't know what Quebec is?
Have you ever heard of Corning Museum of Glass?
So it's in New York State.
Mhm.
Okay,
Upper New York.
gotcha.
Yep, not New York City.
Gotcha.
Are you a Bills fan?
Nope.
No.
Whoa. Oh, she must be a Patriots fan.
Nope, I'm not really a football person.
Oh, okay.
I do. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Can you post in the comments, Darren?
Sure.
Miss Maria Young wants to talk to you about something. Andrea, when do you have your next court date?
August 1st.
Heidi, we are live right now. Unspeakable is asking for your email, Miss G. Why don't you post your email in the comments? What happened to Darren? Did we lose him?
Yeah.
No.
Apparently, I found the shortcut key to cut myself out of here.
Hey, Andrea, what kind of hearing is it on August 1st?
It's actually a trial hearing for my son. My sister locked my son in the basement for multiple hours, every day. And the first time it had occurred was due to him playing with a fork at lunch. And he was being hit with a paddle on the forearms and on the butt. I don't even do that to my kids. I don't spank my kids. I use exercises. I don't understand why my kids got separated and my daughters are still there. And nobody will do anything about it. They've only checked on my girls twice a month after this had occurred. And I don't feel that's acceptable.
Well, is the judge thinking about taking the children away from your sister?
Not my girls.
Just your son?
Yep, which has already been done. And he got put into a foster home. And then he got moved again. And I don't know.
Are you going to the hearing?
Yeah.
Will your children be there?
No.
No? Who's going to be representing you?
My new attorney, her name is Andrea.
No. I don't know if our producer told you. No name.
Yep, sorry.
Good catch.
But yes, my new attorney, I guess.
Okay. Have you talked to your new attorney about what type of strategy you're going to implement or what's going to happen at the hearing or, anything like that?
Nope, I can't come in contact with her.
What do you mean you can't come in contact?
You
can't, but hold up. You can't get in contact with her or you can't come in contact with her. There's a difference, right?
I've been trying to contact her and I have not received anything back.
Have you sent an email?
I don't have her email.
Do you want me to tell you how to get her email? You go to Google and you Google New York. Well, there's two ways on Google. You can Google her name and her information will probably pop up, right? She probably has a website or something like that, social media. Or you can Google the New York State Bar, and then you can go on the State Bar website, look her up, and get her address, telephone, and email from there.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
She probably wondered how you got her email.
I was actually wondering, though, with all this that's going on with my kids and stuff, because of the discrimination, the conflict of interest, the perjury, all of this. What can I do about it? Like, this is something needs to be done, because I and my kids lost lots and lots of time together. Our family has suffered for 4 years, and it's heart-wrenching, and we just can't take it no more.
Well, your last alternative, talking about legal ways to do it, is the complaint to DHHS, the complaint to the U.S. Justice Department, Civil Rights Division. But if you want to go to court, you might want to talk to a civil rights attorney about filing some type of civil rights action pursuant to something like 42 USC 1983, and filing a lawsuit, and
Okay.
seeking damages and or some type of injunction,
Right.
to force the the state court to do something, or to force, the social workers to do something, or to refrain from doing something.
Okay.
I don't know enough about your case to tell you anything more than that, but that's, a starting place. Don't
Right.
try to do it. Don't try to do it by yourself. It's, you shouldn't try
Definitely
that.
not to.
Because, a lot of people don't realize this, but if you bring a frivolous lawsuit, because not that it's frivolous, but you just don't know how to do it, you can be sanctioned monetarily.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Good, right?
So you want to make sure that when you do this, that you do this with somebody, that's skilled and, has a license to practice law. Okay.
I've looked everywhere, and I can't find a single attorney that will.
How many attorneys have you called?
I can't even count. I've called so many. I've probably got a binder full of just names and numbers.
How many have you called? About
250 probably.
Oh, that's way past our magic
That's
number of 50.
for sure.
Are you just calling in New York?
Nope.
She got a hold of you.
I've called everybody I could possibly find anything to do with CPS or family of any kind. Or litigation, or I was actually gonna look into taking it to an appeal, because my girls are still there and I don't feel that it's acceptable. So I was gonna try to see if I can take it to a higher court to have them maybe look into it, to do something.
Have you talked to an appellate attorney in New York?
I have not. I've looked at some, and I've been trying to contact some. Like, I've emailed some, but I haven't received anything back.
I'm going to make you, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to refer you to a guy who I think will tell you whether he'll at least tell you if he can help you. And if he can help you, he's a very good attorney, CPS attorney. And I think the last time I spoke to him, he told us, me and Miss G, that he's starting to do civil rights cases, right? Michael said he was starting to sue social workers, right? Yeah. And his name is Michael. We can't pronounce his last name, but we are going to figure out how to pronounce his last name before August 5, our seminar, where he's one of the speakers. But let me tell you something. I've been doing this a long time, and when I talk to attorneys, I can tell by talking to them how experienced they are and or how passionate they are about a particular subject. This guy is experienced and he's very passionate. And, he may be able to help you, he may not. But if he's not, I think he might be able to tell you where to go or what to do. And he may be able to give you some advice specifically and narrowly tailored to the state of New York. Because I think he told us he's in Manhattan. Is that where he said, Miss G? Yeah, he's in Manhattan in New York City. But you can get his information from Miss G.
Okay.
So when you call her, about the book thing, also, she'll give you that information, his name and number. And you should give him a call, because I think he might have some information for you, or at least some advice for you. Okay?
Okay.
He may not be able to help you. I'm not saying that he will, right? He may not be able to help you.
Hey, anything's worth a shot.
Yeah. And I think he does charge money. So be prepared for that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Andrea, I want to thank you for being on the show this evening. I
Thank you.
appreciate it and sharing your story. Don't forget to call Miss G about the book and about Michael's name and number, and try to keep us posted. Call us back, or email us back in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and let us know where you are.
Okay.
I can't wait to take a look at your documents to see why you haven't seen your kids in 4 years, and you still have your parental rights. That's what makes the case amazing to me, is that the case, after 4 years, the case is still open. You haven't seen the kids in 4 years, but you haven't lost your parental rights, and they haven't made a permanent plan for your children to just close the case out, like guardianship or something.
Well, I won't let that happen either. I've been on them nonstop, at least every month. I try to fill out paperwork and send it in and do something to get my kids back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to lose my kids. I've promised them that I'm not going to let them go until they
Right.
come home.
Okay.
I will not give up on them until they're back home.
Good for you, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Never say die.
Mm-mm.
Andrea, thank you again, and we'll be in contact. Don't forget to call Miss G.
Okay,
All right.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Mhm. All righty. That's one of the most egregious stories I've ever heard.
4 years?
Yeah.
Isn't
I mean,
18 to 22 months. Isn't 18 to 22 months like the cutoff for the Title
well, in
IV?
California, it's like 18. It's like, it can be 12. It could
Yeah.
be 18. In very rare cases, it could be 24.
Right. That's crazy.
Here, this lady's saying 4 years. That's twice the longest I've seen.
48 months. 48
Well,
months. Is what
yeah, I've never heard of someone saying it's been 4 years while the
Wow.
case is still open. There are a lot of people who say, "Oh, I haven't seen my kid in 4 or 5 years," but their case is closed,
Right. They've been
right? Or
TPR over. They're
they
trying to.
lost, yeah, they lost their parental rights. But this lady's saying she still has her parental rights. The case is still open. She hasn't seen her kid in 4 years. Those things usually don't add together. They're not. You don't find them in the same case.
Oh, the heartache that lady must feel every day. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
We're moving towards the end of the show, but before we go, there's two things I have to do. I have to give a tip of the day and a new rule. Miss G, were there any questions or comments that you had?
No.
What happened?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. I hit the wrong button.
Huh.
Mr. Guy, anything you wanted to say?
No, I feel bad for that lady. I mean, I hope she gets some help. I hope that you're able to help that lady, because if there's someone that's been on the show that needs it, she's definitely it. He's got $1,000 computer machine to make the TV go, but look at it now.
You what?
Oh, nothing.
You said something about a $1,000 machine.
I said, yeah, like you're always, my sound stuff always crapping out, and you got $1,000 computer machine to make the TV stuff work, and now it's all stuck. I can see you one frantically moving over there trying to fix something.
No, I'm typing something.
Oh, okay. So yeah, no. Anyway, that lady, she definitely needs some help. So if anybody's out there that's watching her and heard that story, they definitely need to help that lady. No doubt about it. Because her to not have her kids for 4 years and not have any finalization or closing, she definitely needs some help. So that's a little extreme. No doubt about that.
You guys have Walmarts in Maine?
Of course we do.
I just posted my rule number 3. I met someone a couple weeks ago that had 3 spiral notebooks, which she purchased from Walmart. Like right now, back to school time, they're like 25 cents for 70 pages. And you can write on both sides, so like 140 pages. But she had 3 spiral notebooks of notes that she had taken since the beginning of her case. They were dated with notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking through them, and it was incredible. I mean, all of the things I would have ever wanted to ask her, she had in her notebook, or her
Mm-hmm.
notebooks. So I'm making that rule number 3. And then tip number 3. Have you ever heard of a tip that I've told parents that you really like, Miss G or Mr. Guy?
I didn't understand your question.
Have you ever heard me tell someone, a parent, about what to do or not to do in their CPS case?
Yes.
That really stood out to you. What was it?
You mentioned listen and talk less.
That
Listen
was
more and
last night.
talk less.
That was last night.
But that was always been your number one rule.
You
Don't
have
talk
one?
to them. I'll
Get,
just be quiet.
get the case files. Get your case files. Make sure you have the right information.
How about this one? Always having a hard time typing. Tip number 3. Always get a copy of every
Mm.
minute order in your case. I think it's obvious why you would need that.
Okay, you want to see my drawer? Want to see my drawer? That's everything that you would need to know about my daughter. That's all the notebooks, all the things, everything about her case, the markers, everything. That's this whole drawer is her file. I use these notes. Here. I see you see me writing on these. These are for your shows. I actually have them for your shows too. Like every episode of your shows are all in here.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you've taken this to a whole nother level, Mr. Guai. Okay, so we've come to the end of the show this evening. We're going to be on tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard. I want to thank my 2 co-hosts, Miss G and Mr. Guai, for being on. Andrea, our guest, just posted something in the private chat. Can you guys see it?
Yes, sir. She's absolutely
It's
right.
important to have copies and keep note and consistent. Let me bring her back on because she's still in the green room. Andrea, what did you mean by that comment?
It's important to have lots and lots of notes of everything that goes on and keep multiple copies. And even being consistent on everything that you do, the calls, the everything, no matter what it is, even if it's writing down notes and going through your paperwork or trying to find those little things that other people miss, like the same file numbers or docket numbers or the same or wrong dates.
Okay.
Because that all matters.
Yes, you're right. You're right. All right. Thank you very much for coming back. Okay, here's a question. My last question for the night. Mike Bartz writes, what is a minute order? Do we have those here in North Carolina? Okay. Mike, a minute order is the clerk's summary of what happened during that day's court proceeding in your case. They are generically known as minute orders, but every time you have a court hearing, the clerk of the court prepares the minute orders. Some places just call them court orders, okay? And do we have those here in North Carolina? I happen to know the answer to that because I did a case in North Carolina. The answer is yes. North Carolina keeps orders from every court hearing. I can't remember if they were called minute orders, but Mike, you can get a copy of all your court orders or all your minute orders by taking your government issued ID and going to the clerk of the court and saying, hey, here's my ID, here's my case number. I'd like a copy of all my court orders. Okay. Generally, in CPS cases, they're not supposed to charge you for those court orders or those copies, but I have heard people say the clerk charged me. And if they try to charge you, one of the things you should do is ask to speak to the supervisor and say, hey, am I supposed to be charged for copies of my CPS minute orders? Okay. Because there's some kind of something, I think in a federal regulation I read one time that you're supposed to be able to get a copy of your file at no charge. But, you know, when it gets down to the county level or the state level and in every different place, they might want to charge you. I don't recall if North Carolina charges for them. I was in Greensboro and I had a local counsel, meaning I teamed up with a guy who was an attorney in Greensboro, North Carolina, and he took care of all of that kind of stuff for me. So I don't know if we ever had to pay for anything or not. Heidi says, I've heard people say that, or they've said that minute orders have been changed or altered. Mike says, okay, understood. I hope I'm allowed in the building. Yeah, me too, Mike. If you're not allowed in the building, you got serious problems.
Right.
It's hard to win a case when you're not in the building or in the courtroom. All righty, folks. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be on again with a new guest, and we'll maybe some new topics, new rules, new tips. I want to thank both of you, Miss G, for being on this evening, and Mr. Guai, thank you very much for being on. And we'll see everyone tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Pacific. Good night, all.
Good night.